Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, then hi, my name is Miss Paris. I'm a newly qualified primary school teacher here in the UK. Today, I don't want to have any waffle, I want to get straight into it, giving you the information that you need to know for September. I mean, even I'm getting quite nervous now. It feels like ages since I've been in the classroom, so I can't imagine how new trainees are feeling at the moment. If you are a new trainee, let me know how you are feeling. Is there anything I can do to help? Anyway. Okay, let's get started. So this video is going to be all about things to ask your mentor when you first meet them in September. You might have already been able to meet them in person or Zoom call with them, but if you haven't, then there's some things that it's really worth asking once you meet them in September. First of all, I would get to the basics of the running of the school and the running of the classroom. So for example, even something as simple as what is the timetable like? If you're in Key Stage 1, you might have 20-minute lessons or 15-minute lessons. When you get to Key Stage 2, you might have some lessons like MFL that are 45 minutes long. You might have some lessons that most of the time are an hour. When you get to Key Stage 3 or Key Stage 4, it almost depends per secondary school. Sometimes they might have 1 hour lessons. I know that my brother's school has 1.5 hour lessons, but I know that in the past they did 45-minute lessons and they just had more of them in the day. So already just ask them, what is the timetable going to look like? When are break times? They might separate the lunch times. So some classes go to lunch at 12 and some classes go to lunch at 1. You need to know all these kind of things. The other thing is if there are any policies that aren't available on their school website, so you haven't been able to look at them in advance, I would ask about those, especially things like the marking policy, because you're going to do a lot of marking, and if you're not prepared or you don't have the right coloured pens because they do marking in purple or in green or in pink and green and you've only got blue and black biro, like I did. You need to know if they have specific keys such as I circled for independent or GW for group work, or they might not have any codes, or they might do things with symbols. What do they do? What are the policies that you lack knowledge of? You need to ask them. The next thing to ask regarding school and timetables is what your table will look like. When are there staff meetings? When do you have PPA time, which is normally with your mentor? When will you have time for yourself? So out of classroom time to do assignment work or observe other teachers. Is that something that you can negotiate, or are there certain days or hours that are better for you to be out of the classroom? When should you do your mentor meetings? So you are expected to have a mentor meeting every single week. At least with my SCITT, we had certain reflection notes that we had to make. You will have to try and decide when to do this because it has to be regular and weekly. Are you going to do it in a lunch break or are you going to do it after school? If you don't know until suddenly they say in the morning, oh, do you fancy a mentor meeting today? And then it changes every week, that's just an added stress of not knowing what's happening. The next thing to ask them is the most important reason of all. It's the reason why we teach. It's the children. Ask them about the children. What are the class profiles or pupil profiles like in your class? You will probably need to be familiar with the children who have SCND or maybe who are pre-working towards, who might be a whole key stage behind, or who will really need your support or different interventions. You need to ask who is on a pupil premium plan, which is PP for short, who is English as a foreign language, who will need extra support in terms of their vocabulary, because that might be something you need to think about when you're planning English, for example, or reading comprehension lessons. Who is somebody to look out for behaviour wise? Make sure that you get a relationship going with them straight away to make sure that they are on your side and not prone to mess around in your lesson because you're the trainee and somebody new. So all of these things are really important, not just for helping you to lesson plan, not just helping you to differentiate, but these children might be key in getting enough evidence for your evidence bundles or evidence folders, I've heard them being called. So for example, differentiation is about TS5. If you cater a lesson plan to them and you make it deliberately engaging, or you do a different activity for them, that's TS4. The behaviour thing is TS7. All of these things show that you are meeting the needed requirements for teaching. Speaking of those class profiles, pupil profiles, I mentioned that in one of my previous videos about 4 things to do when you find out your placement. So if you haven't seen that, then I would recommend it and put it in the description as well as the eye above me. The next tip is about supporting your mentor. Now this might sound weird and some people might say it's controversial. They might say, hey, they're there to support you. That's true, but actually they do have an added workload with you being there. So if you can find ways to help them, then A, that's helpful for them. B, that helps strengthen your relationship with the mentor. And C, all experience is good experience. Even if it's something like, could you help me put this display up? We're going to start a new topic. Would you like to help me think of the first lesson, or maybe a starter on how to introduce this, or what activity could we do to do X, Y, and Z? So being part of that planning process is really useful, because you don't know, in your NQT year you might be the one teaching that topic to the same year group, and you will have already seen this medium-term plan or short-term plan coming together. My last tip is to make sure that you have enough time out of class. Now I personally didn't do this. I wanted to get as much experience as possible in the classroom. My class was also a bit tricky behaviour wise, so I wanted to be there to support the TA and the teacher, my mentor, because I felt kind of bad, but also it was a good way to strengthen those relationships. However, it is important that you have time out of the classroom. I didn't do this, and I found myself having such a heavy workload when I got home because I never took the opportunity to go out of the classroom. You aren't expected, even by the end of the year, to be teaching 100% of the time. Even at the end of the year, it should only be at a max 80%. So the rest of the time, you need to know what you can do. So either you could ask, when I'm not teaching, is there an area of the room that I could have? Is there a table I could have? Or could I go into another room that's quieter? Because I found that when I did take time out, but it was in the room, pupils would come up to me to show me their work, and I would end up having a look round, and you know, I didn't get much stuff done. So could I maybe go to an ICT suite if it's free, or how could I check the ICT schedule to see if it's free? Those kind of things are really, really important, because when you start getting PGCE assignments, or you end up having to plan a series of lessons in a row, or even if it's just preparing resources, you kind of forget. For example, in Key Stage 1, you have to stick every single learning intention in their books for every single lesson. So that's 30 kids or more for every single lesson. And you kind of think, okay, I've planned my lesson, I've got the resources. But actually that takes time as well. Even in Key Stage 2, you need to make sure that you cut the learning intentions and you cut the A4 pages to make sure it fits in the margins. Otherwise you get paper all over the place, and yeah. All of those things actually do take time, so seize those opportunities, seize those moments where you can be out of the classroom but still being productive, and ask where you can do it to make sure you have some peace and quiet and that you can make it productive, because all of that will help towards your work-life balance and making sure you don't have a massive workload when you get home in the evenings. Okay, well, that is everything. That is all the things that I would say are really crucial to ask your mentor when you start school in September. Obviously, if you've spoken to them before, brilliant, that's really good. If you've already asked some of these before, also brilliant, but just make sure that you're comfortable with the schedule of the school, the running of the school, the policies of the school. Make sure that you know the children that you're teaching. Obviously, you learn them as you go, but just to have some data on them, because a lot of the time you need to put this in your evidence folder too, and make sure that you can support each other. So whether it be you finding a quiet space in the school to do work outside of your teaching hours, or whether it's helping your mentor doing planning or displays or researching or creating things, because all experience is good experience. If you like this video, then please give it a thumbs up, because that helps YouTube to suggest it to other trainees who might be looking for some tips too. And don't forget to subscribe for more teacher content. I do tips, I do advice, and sometimes I might do vlogs, so hopefully I can start those again in September. I will see you soon. Bye!